Alrighty, thanks for those tuning in to my continuation of the Tapestry series. We're going to work on thread number 2. So I will include all of the instructions of how to access your Astro chart. It's a free tool that's online. And then you can do what I'm referencing with my own chart here with your chart, so you get deeper information. So the second thread in the Tapestry series is about the concept of our love. The first thread was about our strength. It's what we're doing here is we're building the tapestry almost like from the bottom up, or another way to look at it is building in like the deepest hues and then kind of coming out. That's another way to view it. We're adding dimensionality with every single thread that is added to the tapestry, because that's how your life experience works. As you move along through life from the time of birth onward, and particularly getting into the school setting, and then through, maybe you get straight into the workforce or you go to college, and then kind of moving through the workforce, and just our interactions with other people is what brings the dimensionality forward, okay? So this next deeper hue that's coming in for the tapestry is our love. Now, I've got my chart pulled up here, and what we're referencing with this thread is this piece of pie right here, the second piece of pie, and then across the way, the 8th piece of pie. So I want you to think about this really as a single thread that has these two ends to it. And we have times when we pull on one end or we pull on the other, and sometimes we're really in alignment and we've got it nice and taut. We're pulling on both ends at once. Wow, that is when we're working on our highest level, really, when we're doing that. And we're not meant to do that 24/7, by the way. We have times where you need to be solidly in the second house or in the 8th house, okay? I'm just trying to make us all, and for my own awareness, aware that we have these two kind of polarities that we're working with. So having to do with our love, we're going to start with the second house, and it's the same questions that you're going to ask when you look to the 8th house, okay? So the second house, the questions I want you to look at is, what is the element that rules that second house for you? The second house traditionally has to do with Taurus. It has to do with what we view as valuable to us, what we view as like beautiful, because that second house in astrology is ruled by Taurus and Venus. So these are our values and what we view as beautiful in our life. It like adds richness to us. And there is a stability that is built here in the second house. And so things like money do fall into the second house, and our viewpoints about money, and how we, I guess a broader way to understand it is how we view what is valuable to us. And that's the reason why money tends to fall it does fall in this house, because for so many of us, we value money on the base level, regardless of if you think you need a lot of money or not. In our society today, we need money in order to survive. We have to have some form of some kind of cash flow in the current system. Not that it will always be that way. However, that's part of the value system that we're working with. So that's the second house, the base meaning of that. Your values, what you look to as important to who you are. It's the basis from which everything else is built, just like the 1st and 7th house was based on your own personal strength, and then the reflection of that out with other people. This is your love. This is what you love, what you value within, and then what does that look like when you make deep connection with the other? And that can be a bank, that could be another person, that could be, art gallery that you're working with, and you're creating income that way, and that partnership with another. It's a very deeply entwined partnership. Okay, so when you're looking at this second house, the first thing you want to look at is, you see this line here that launches the second house. Here's the number 2. We're looking at the line that launches it. I want you to see where that comes in. If yours is any one of the blue signs, which is Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer, you're talking water. If yours is one of the yellow orangey ones, like Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini, you're talking air. And then if you have red, Leo, Sagittarius, or Aries, that's fire. And then the earth signs are Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. And you can reference all of this information in the what I include in the YouTube description, all right, as to what your element means, and or what it is, and then what that means for you. So for me, my second house has this feeling of water to it, which means that it's what I value is my own internal deep waters within, my intuitive approach to what I value. And my emotions are huge for me in terms of pointing me towards what I value. So you're going to want to look at the information that I give down below about what your element is and what that means. We're building this one piece of the puzzle at a time. Then you're going to look at what sign is that. So here we have Scorpio for me. And down below are all the glyphs showing what those mean, what glyph is what sign. And it gives you an indication. So for me, I've not only got this water element, which has to do with emotions and deep inner intuition, wisdom from within, not out here. Scorpio is deep as it comes. That's my way of looking at Scorpio, is that this is a very deep, deep truth that is within me, and that I don't like games when it comes to my values and what I value and who I value, because that all falls in this inner second house. I don't like games. So that immediately cuts out any situation, any thing that I see play out in my environment. If that is not true and doesn't feel true blue to me, it immediately cuts that away, because that's Scorpio. Scorpio loves the ultimate seed truth. I was doing a reading for a client, I think this was yesterday, and there was a Sabian symbol related to the germ of an idea, of a multi-level potentiality. And that really speaks to Scorpio. You want to get down to the base, okay? So this is how you put these together, is the elemental nature of, I take the cue emotionally. That's how I do my second house. That's how I know. Emotionally, do I feel good about this, or does this really make me feel upset? That's an indicator for me. And then the way that I do it is to come to this ultimate truth within. And I have to dig deep in matters having to do with values, integrity. Those are really important words for me. And so if I feel anything is off, either with myself or with the other that I'm with, or a situation that I'm in, I have a radar detector for that. And that's my Scorpio at work in my second house for what I value. So really hard driving integrity seeker, you know, that I just don't, I want to cut to it and I want to get to the bottom of it. I don't want to have all this weird small talk over something that is of critical value. It is the basis of something. That's very important to me. So it gives you an idea of that. Also in this second house, you need to look at if there are any planetary placements there. In my case, I have a Neptune placed here. This is in my second house. It happens to be at the start of Sagittarius. You see a little 0 with 50 after. It's hard to see on here. Another way to see that is up here when you look at Neptune. It says 0 Sag, 50 minutes. So 0 degrees, 50 minutes. So that's within Sagittarius at that point. But it still applies to the second house. It still sits within this piece of pie. So what that says here, and again, if you have planets that are in the second piece of pie, you're going to look down below to see what those glyphs mean, and then just a simple core meaning about the planet. We don't need to get all gooped up with deep, deep meanings. We're trying to keep this light and bring together a bunch of pieces. So for me, this is not only Neptune, but there's a little tiny R next to it. And you're going to want to notice if you have an R next to any planet in this area. That indicates a retrograde planet at the time I was born. So it is like you hold that planet within yourself when you have a retrograde. This is, with Neptune being retrograde, this is deep inner mastery around mystical kinds of matters. And because it falls within Sagittarius, this is freedom seeking. This is higher self. This is something that drives how I determine what I value. It's all intuitive all the time because I've got water, I've got Scorpio, which is a water sign, and then I've got Neptune, which is a water planet. It is ruled by the sign of Pisces. So I've got like the triple water thing going on. And so it's this deep inner wisdom that is within me. And what I will say is, with a retrograde planet, you come to know those over a lifetime. That's not something that you just automatically get. It's like people with a Mercury retrograde in their chart. They might tend to be people people don't always understand what they're trying to communicate or how they think. And it's the same that I find with my Neptune. I'm still coming to know my Neptune and to trust my inner intuition when it comes to what I value, and that I make choices around what's beautiful to me that are not true for other people, but it is true within me. And it is driven by my deepest intuitive self, because that is Neptune. That is the mystic within. And with it being retrograde, it's very unique. So yes, I will go buy a BMW. That was a core, the BMW falls right in here. It's like the things you value, and other people can see that very, very differently. But to me, there's a deeper value to that not everybody would understand. It gets right down to the logo of the BMW logo. It looks just like an astrological chart. So down to that level, that's a good example of what this means to have a retrograde Neptune in the second house. I derive my own meaning intuitively as to what I value. And it falls within these early degrees of Sagittarius who will not be held back. There is such a sense of freedom and openness with Sag that I can't hold back those things that I do value. I go after them with a gusto. Once I catch on to what Neptune's trying to tell me, it takes a while sometimes with retrograde planets. Okay, so you're going to want to do that for your second piece of pie. It's 4 pieces of information. It's your element, earth, air, fire, water. your sign, one of the 12 signs, any planets that you have there, and are any of those planets, do they have the little R for retrograde? Because that means inner mastery. You need to follow your own inner planet. You're not going to find it out there. You're not following a template of what Neptune means, generally speaking. You're creating your own Neptune within. And you come to know it over time. So it tells you also that you need to be patient, and you need to understand that other people are not going to see the world according to that planet and what that planet means. Others won't see it like you do, and that's okay. It gives you a permission note to be incredibly unique. And almost everybody that I do a chart for has at least one retrograde planet, because these planets, some of them are in retrograde for a long time. So you're going to want to do those same 4 steps over across the way for the other end of the thread, which is the 8th house. You're going to want to look at this line right here that kicks off. This is the 8th house. Where does that go into? So for me, that's in Taurus, which is an earth sign. So I have water on one side mixed with earth on the other. And that 8th house has to do, again, with this deep connections into systems, other people, wherever we look to for stability with another. So this is things like sex. This is things like taking out a mortgage for a home or a car. Any engagement at a deep level when there's 2 parties and somebody or both of you have something to gain. There's something at stake when it comes to the 8th house. This is also the house of death. This is, the deep inner values of who you are as a person, and then who you are in the great beyond, the all that is. So it's a mystical kind of house, the 8th house, and it tends to be all the things that nobody really wants to talk about, kind of some of the more taboo subjects, and people owing people money, things like inheritance, where there's another element involved, and there is a highly charged interaction that takes place. The energy here in the 2nd house is within you. This is about setting your own value set. And then you entwine what you value, what you love, what you find valuable with another. I want this house, so I'm going to entwine my energy with a certain bank in order to get that to happen. This would also be something like insurance would be here. It's engagement with a system or a person, something outside of yourself where you have to work out the details of it. Contracts would also be in this area. It's heavy engagement. There's something to be gained here. Okay? So this is just the other end of it. And sometimes we need to discover what it is that we need in our own. We sometimes revisit our own value system if something over here is causing us to question, why am I getting so triggered by that? Why am I flying off the handle when it comes to this particular bank or something? I'm having this happen with a certain vendor that we're working with in our family, and it has made me bounce back. It's always perfect because this just happened this past week. It's making me question what in my own value set is not lining up. And is it that I'm flying off the handle unnecessarily? Do I need to clean up something in this piece of pie? My own personal perspective, and this is where the other, like having a spouse or a love partner or a parent or a child, another person to give perspective is helpful here. Because sometimes we're so steadfast in our values that we absolutely can't see any way to make any of those things happen. That's a time when there's too much weight over here. If you're too steadfast and you refuse to take a look at, geez, what is my thought on that? What do I love? And think about over your life. It changes what you tend to love. That is a changing form because you're out, you're experiencing life, people introduce you to things, you get an inner inspiration to go try something, you see something on TV or in a book or in a video or da-da-da-da-da. You're constantly evolving. So this house, just like any house, is not meant to be static. You don't come in with one set of this is it and that's it, because then there's too much weight on that end of the thread, and it's like this one is flapping in the breeze and eventually it just wants to fly away. You can't make a tapestry like that. You have to get to a point where it is taut at both ends at some point in order to put it into place, to add dimensionality to your experience, which is your tapestry. And understand it changes over time too. That's the beauty of it. So this is personal values, and then this is how those values stack up against when you are engaged with another at a deep level. I'm talking deep, intertwined. How does that then play itself out? And here, where this line comes into the side of the wheel, is going to tell you the sign, the element. You can look that up below. The sign. And then if there's any planets here, look up what those mean, and are any of them retrograde. So by this, in my chart, I have a little bit of weight on one side very naturally, especially with Neptune being retrograde. I don't have that over here. So guess what? I'm always in this life going to feel more weight on that second house side, my own internal vision of what I value. And that will push me forward. And it might not match, it most definitely won't match what other people think of as valuable. And it's a level of integrity that is deep within me. But then it forces me, the more I can get out here, I can bring some balance to it because I don't have a planet over here. So what I do to do that in the 8th house, Earth is my element. This is about getting stability. It's Earth matters. So this is in terms of other people's money. This is, contracts with jobs. This isn't about, it's why I couldn't just do my business by itself. I didn't feel fulfillment because I needed this kind of intertwinement to feel balanced. So this is about finding stability because this is Taurus, Earth and Taurus. This is earthly matters of things like how you earn money, your home, being engaged with a bank and, having to be out there and borrowing money and things like that. That actually brings balance to me. And Taurus is about stability. So the more that I can find stability in what it is that in my engagement with others and understanding there's ups and downs all the time, but Taurus is always looking for safety and stability. So when I can attempt to find that with another, whether that is in my relationship with my husband, very deeply intertwined, or with my employer, or with a bank, or some other kind of vendor. This is an intertwinement that often it has to do with money or giving up something, like when you think about sex, it's a giving up of something that you hold of value. You're bringing your second house, whoom, I'm bringing what I value out into the world. Whether it's my own money that I'm engaging with somebody else, my own talents and my level of integrity that I'm bringing out for somebody else? And what does that contractual agreement look like? Okay. So for me, that stability factor is incredibly important. I can take a risk by my intuition when I need to. But then in order to keep it balanced and not get too weighted over here in la la land, which is pretty much what my second house is, I need to be grounded. This is why I say I'm a grounded woo-woo person, because my Taurus has got to come out to bring some stability. Now, Taurus is still focused on love and, beauty and abundance, but it is abundance with engagement at a deep level with another person. This is why I love my work that I do when it comes to like animals, if they're ready to cross over or they're coming to end of life. I love doing those communication sessions because this is a pure result of this sort of groundedness that I feel in offering love and stability at a time that feels quite unstable. This is how I balance the energy. And I do it by tapping into my intuitive nature, very deep down. And this is how Neptune helps me out. And it literally earns me money because I'm able to do that. This is why I also loved volunteering in palliative care, because it's when you can bring a stability in those earthly matters. That's Taurus is about, being stable, a stability, and not being too overly emotional about it, and just dealing with the right here, right now, and seeing the beauty of the moment in things like making a contract to borrow big money, or in end of life, death, and what happens during a death process. In things like your sexual relations, in any kind of contractual agreements in the work setting or partnerships of some kind. Okay? So you're just going to want to see what do they each look like on their own, and then how do you work with them to balance and understand it's not about keeping the thread taut 24/7. It's about pulling on a side when you feel yourself getting too staunch in your beliefs and like, it's about my integrity and I'm not giving that up, and this is what I love and I won't have anything else. This can get to be a very selfish, very totally self-centered house. But then when you bring it out here and you offer stability, in my case, earthy groundedness, that helps to even out all of that watery, intuitive, deeply emotional stuff that makes me who I am. It's about the balance. So sometimes, and oftentimes actually, I need to pull on that 8th house side of the string because I've got a lot of weight over here with a retrograde planet sitting inside of me. So if you've got that, you're in the same boat. And you got to have strategies of how you pull on this side of the string based on the element, the house, if there is any planets here, a retrograde planet, if you've got a retrograde in one of these pieces of pie, that will tend to have more lead weight because it's very personally true for you. And when you hold the planet within yourself, there's no looking away from that. It's pure mastery. And again, really just about everybody I have done a chart for has this. So there you go. The only other thing I would mention is if there is an alignment, I call it, take a look at like this that we covered last time, of these two planets, Saturn and Mars, that have a red line over to my Jupiter. This is known, most astrologers call it an opposition. I call it an alignment because it's you are the glue in the middle. This is you at the time of your birth. You are the magnet in the middle. and you pull on these 2 planets at the same time. In my case, this is 3 planets. And so you are supercharged. This is a superpower when you have 2 planets that you can use at once to help you pull this thread together. It's a real area of expertise, okay, if you have that. And then, of course, you can go to a deeper level with Sabian symbols for your, not only the launch point of the house, like this line that comes into Taurus, but also the points at which you have planets. And that's something that I offer as a service through my site on the astrology page. So I'll include that link below if that's of interest. You can have me look at just 1 thread at a time or do a reading for all 6 threads, which is much longer and a larger price, of course. So there we go. That's thread number 2, our love, our value. I hope that's helpful and that you can use it to your best advantage moving forward. Bye-bye for now.